this is, in my view, the single most important legal issue in the cryptocurrency industry today.
Let's start with the news of the day.
So
your feelings about this SEC lawsuit. We get a lot to unpack here.
It's interesting. So I guess let me start by saying we've been seeing this coming for a long time now. In fact, there were several web scraping tools that I used to try and find what the latest crypto legal news is, and they were reporting even last week that the SEC had filed, which the file stamp was as of today. So query how it is. Some of these news scrapers got advance notice, but be that as it may, I've had a few minutes before we were able to go on air to briefly peruse the SEC's complaint, and it is a whopper. It's over 160 pages long. It's against a variety of Binance entities and then CZ individually. And in terms of the content of it, a lot of it isn't particularly surprising. It's very consistent with what the SEC has been alleging in similar lawsuits, for example, against Kraken and others, where they are alleging that the fundamental problem that Binance has is it is serving as multiple kinds of entities that we would normally see in traditional finance, or TradFi, as you were about to say, and commingling them. So they're acting as a broker-dealer, they're acting as an exchange, and they're acting as a clearinghouse, and they're also custodying customer assets and commingling them. And, you know, from the crypto industry point of view, this has been problematic, and we've seen this, for example, in the Coinbase litigation, where parties like Coinbase have said, hey, look, we have been trying to find a regulatory path to compliance and to work with the SEC and to work within the rules, but the rules contemplate an outdated model of transaction flow, where one of the fundamental innovations of blockchain, for example, is real-time settlement, where you don't need a clearinghouse function and you can confirm trades immediately on the blockchain. But separate and apart from that, there's this question of whether Binance is operating as an unregistered broker-dealer, an unregistered exchange, and an unregistered clearinghouse, which presumes that they have been selling unregistered securities. Mm-hmm. And as the audience is probably very well aware, this is, in my view, the single most important legal issue in the cryptocurrency industry today, which is this question about which digital assets are securities or not. And there are several that are named in that complaint. I have not taken the time to familiarize myself with all of them, but several of them we've already seen named in previous actions. For example, Algorand, which is a really interesting one because there's some footage of Gensler when he was teaching at MIT, seemingly suggesting that Algorand would not be a security, and yet now here we are alleging that they are.
Well, it's a day that ends in Y.
Well, I mean, and this goes to, which will bridge to this other conversation, but for those of you who watched, I've watched entirely too many congressional hearings on crypto, but if there's one to watch for the audience, I highly recommend. There was a financial services hearing where Gensler was a witness, and right out of the gate, Chair McHenry very toughly cross-examined Gensler on the question of, is Ethereum, the second largest market cap digital asset in the world, is that a security? And Gensler couldn't clearly answer the question. He just reverted to the Howey test analysis and you don't want me prejudging and this hemming and hawing, which McHenry criticized as this regulation by enforcement, where we in the crypto industry don't have the clarity the SEC claims that we ought to have, and instead we're finding out case by case which digital assets the SEC is considering securities. And here now we have a new packet of examples, as they pleaded, which include Algorand, and as I understand it, also Solana, and at least several more. And so this will be a key battlegrounds, because whether, I mean, we'll all read the complaint, and the complaint has a lot of internal emails that are the result of the SEC's investigation, some of which are problematic for Binance if they are true. But you know, we as the industry as a whole, whether you like Binance or not, Binance is now in the position of litigating some of the key issues which are facing all of us. And one thing that's become very apparent to me as a crypto lawyer in the space is we benefit from trying to have a unified front to the greatest extent possible to advance friendlier and clearer regulation and legislation when it comes to crypto. And for better or worse, this is now Binance has entered the fray, and I think that we'll see in the coming days and weeks what their response is, and be able to better assess how it will impact the whole industry.
When is their answer due? They've got, what, 30 days?
Yeah, so the filing came through today. So in the normal course, assuming Binance has accepted service, I think that would be correct.
No,
Yeah.
60. It'll be 60 days.
60.
Federal.
Yeah,
It'll be
yeah,
60.
60
So
days.
a couple of months, a month,
Yeah.
2 months, till we hear what they have to say.
If they don't publish earlier. Because
True,
one other
yeah.
thing that we saw with Coinbase is Coinbase got this Wells notice, and companies are not under a per se obligation to immediately disclose that they got a Wells notice. Coinbase made a strategic decision to kind of litigate in the public and publicize that they'd received the Wells notice, publicize their strategy, and kind of declare their intent to fight this fight, and makes for a great rallying cry for many in the crypto industry. And right now, I think it's too early for us to judge what Binance's response is going to be, but as it matures and as they release statements and we get to see, we can assess what the impacts will be for the industry.
Hey, it's Amy. Click over here to subscribe, click over here for more content, and we'll see you next time.